Hey, what's going on, everybody? Boilon here, and welcome back to another video on Lord of the Rings Home. Happy Monday, by the way, and also, I guess this week we'll be getting the launch of Chapter 3 of the Raids. I do want to kind of talk about that in reference to the teams that I have. Kind of wondering, like, am I going to do any good? So I want to take a look at, like, my top 3, top 4 teams in reference to how we're going to get points in Chapter 3. And honestly, I'm glad that they kind of revealed the point structure before it launched, so we at least have an idea what it's going to look like, because I'm pretty sure when Chapter 2 went live, we didn't know until it was actually in-game where we could actually take a look at the screen. So, for better or for worse, we have a little bit of a heads up. And I guess the bigger question is, are you, and I mean you collectively, will you get to Chapter 3? Obviously getting 17 million in Chapter 2 is a lot harder than 17 million in Chapter 1. My alliance, my guild, we just made it, like 17.5. So hopefully we're improving upon that this coming week, rather. But, you know, if I'm just kind of hitting there, then I'm wondering where I rank in the percentage of players that do guild raids, and whether or not this is going to exclude, you know, 80% or however many people from getting into Chapter 3. But anyways, more of that and more, and if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. So first off, I just want to revisit the blog a little bit, especially where it talks about the scoring rules for Chapter 3, just to give people, you know, some, if you forgot, or if you haven't been looking at this lately, the main ways in which you're going to get points. And it's pretty simple, really. So I'm thinking about my Rivendell, my elf team, and they do have evades, but I'm like, maybe I'm going to be getting a lot of points through this mechanic. Gain 400 points per living ally at the start of every ally's turn. So I think my goal might actually be to use Naramiri and Elrond at the same time. I'm thinking of maybe taking out Elro here, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of value. There's no points for doing damage, pretty much. I believe that they reduce the stack of their passive, though, when you kill them. But aside from that, you're not actually getting any direct points from damaging them. So I may take out Elro here, put in Naramiri for more healing, and just surviving longer. And that's kind of that's the impression that I'm getting. Now, you do get a lot of points for blocking, and if you forget, blocking is defensive. So when you have defensive on, that is going to trigger a block. Characters like Eowyn, for example, when she uses her basic, that adds a defensive, which is going to trigger a block. So that's the thing too, and obviously the new Gondor team. I'm not going to talk about the Gondor team here in this video because I'm not building it. It's beyond 3-star. You can't get beyond 3-star free to play, and so I don't really want to talk about the newest teams because this is not a whale channel. This is largely what you can do free to play. So I think a lot of the characters that I have are more for that, with the exception of Elrond, but hopefully that he does come back around pretty soon. And I think that's probably the impression that I'm getting as well, given that both Elladan and Arwen are now farmable. So I would be on the lookout probably within the next 3 weeks. My guess. I'm hoping that, you know, I have a bit more time, because I do want to get that 6-star Elrond. But, you know, if you are trying to get him for the first time, I would be a little bit cautious about that. So blocks and evades. And then obviously health percentage healed on an ally. So that's not that much, but a lot of healing is like AoE. So this might start stacking. Also, keep in mind, this is D1. When we look at the D2, D3s, like I think it's 3x and 7x the points, I believe. So you want to keep that in mind in terms of how the points are going to be scaling. And this could be a lot, particularly this. This part is where we're going to have to keep an eye on how it actually works in-game. This suggests to me, right, like at the start of your turn, you have everyone alive, presumably, and you're going to get like 2,000 points for all 5 of your party members alive every time, you know, a turn happens, which sounds pretty, quite a lot, because in D1, it caps out at 100,000. So basically, you need to take 50 turns, essentially, without blocking, evading, or healing. You would need to take 50 collective turns, or 10 turns across maybe your entire team to cap that out. And that's probably not, you know, it sounds easier than it's going to be, and it's probably not going to be that easy. But it gives you a suggestion of, like, even on the higher difficulties, probably how many collective turns, or, you know, how long you have to survive, basically. And that's why I'm thinking of going for a dual healing team So you finally they scale by power now on the roster, which is great. So yeah, my first best team typically is my elves. But I don't have all of them, and I'm kind of disappointed. So I didn't upgrade Arwen to the max before because I was sitting at 3-star. Now that she's farmable, I'm slowly going to be working her up, especially as I get to that 4-star and 5-star. She's going to be added in there. And I think for Chapter 3 that she's going to be a good character for that because she does additional cleansing, some Bane cleansing, and also adds regeneration as well to all squad members, which is really important. And of course, if you get this to level 5, the amount of energy that you need to use this goes down, and you get an additional stack of regeneration if they're lower health. So great skill, and this is going to be very helpful, I think, on Chapter 3. Not to mention, she also adds Nimble. Unfortunately, it's only one time, but that's going to add, I guess, an additional 600 score per character for what it's worth. So good thing. Oh, and the defensive as well. So once you get that up to level 6, it's always grants defensive, which is a block. So that's kind of like Eowyn's, except for Eowyn's basic only applies to herself for the defensive. So there's lots of ways that you'll get additional points through Arwen. And the other character that obviously stands out, so we're not going to be using, I don't think we're really going to be using Lomian in Chapter 3. Now, he does have a Nimble for himself with his Special 2, but realistically, I mean, nothing else in his kit is really gonna give you points. And he's squishy, so he's not going to survive as long. So for that reason, I'm probably not going to use him. But Naramiri, I've talked about Naramiri in a previous video, but obviously we have healing, also chucks out energy to other elves. If this character already has stealth, grant a stack of nimble. So there's some chances that Naramiri can get nimble, and also it can stack, so it can go up more than once, which is kind of cool. And Purifying Rite, which obviously cleanses a lot of Banes, which is going to be important to the whole marked mechanic that the goblins have, orcs have, for this. So looking forward to using Naramiri on that. And of course, combined with Elrond. Yeah, I know. I don't want to spend too much time talking about Elrond, because I know that not everyone has Elrond. However, you know, so Elladan, Naramiri, Arwen, Elrond, for me anyways. I don't know where I'm going to use Elro here. Maybe there's like some version of the Ranger team where you can use Elro here, and this would provide more benefit. I feel like Elro here in the Elf team for Chapter 3 just doesn't fit well based on how the point scoring goes, because he doesn't really do it. He does do stealth though, right? Doesn't he? No, he can get. How does he get stealth again? This, right? Yeah, if this character has a boon, gain stealth. So that would help, like, I guess, clear some of the marked mechanics and things like that. But aside from that, he doesn't do anything that would give you points. There's nothing in his kit which is not really relevant to the point scoring. So as much as I hate it, because he's like one of my few maxed out characters, I just don't think he's going to do... And same with Ironhide, in fact. I don't think... so he'll survive, right? And he'll just be a wall there to hopefully, you know, survive longer. But if you keep stacking up those marks, right, and you don't get rid of them, then that'll be an instant KO on him. So despite having a crap ton of hit points, it's only going to go so far, I guess. But, you know, it still might work for a little while. So there is that. Elrond here's a little bit squishier, though, unfortunately, than Ironhide. But I might get some value out of Ironhide as just a sheer wall. So that's something as well. My second team is my Rohan 3. And I guess in this instance, same with Strider. Might be better off in a Return to Rivendell team. And I guess maybe that's the good thing of characters having multiple traits. So, I guess Strider is Return to Rivendell. But typically, I would use him in my Rohan 3 team just because... I need some extra characters there. I don't have the full 5 Rohan. So Eowyn, Eothane, and Eomer, none of them have... Okay, sorry. None of them have block except for Eowyn, which again is just on the basic. I clicked on the wrong skill, which is on herself. But aside from that, you know, there's not... There's some Bane cleansing, so that's okay. But by and large, I don't think that the Rohan team is going to excel in this as much as they did in Chapter 1 and 2. They're pretty good damage for Chapter 2, but as far as what you need to do with blocking and nimbles, they don't have that. So this team is going to be on the lower end of the tier list, I think, for Chapter 3. And I think that's also what's kind of funny, is that teams that are... good in some places are really not going to be as good in other places, and maybe that's a good thing. But what I do like about the elves more broadly is that they've been largely consistent for the most part. Now for Chapter 3, and like I said, I'm thinking of making some substitutions. However, more broadly across the board, Elrond, has been pretty consistent in the elf team across all the chapters so far. And so that's probably the only team that I've seen that's probably like, this is definitely the most value team because I'm using it everywhere. Haradrim, they're my second best team. There's some buff cleansing, there's some slows and stuff, but I don't think they really give you what you need. There's no defensive. I don't think they have defensive in their kit, actually. I didn't really take a full look at it, but from what I remember, there's like concentration, fortitude. That might help. The fortitude, the resistance might help to resist. I don't know if you'll be able to resist their marked and things like that, but honestly, there's nothing else. Unbreakable. They'll survive, maybe? Oh, there's block chance in the leader ability, 10%. Fortunately, I don't have the level 5, and I can't do that because I don't have green ability material anyways. So there's some block chance. That's heavy RNG, though, if you're trying to roll for that. But otherwise, yeah, I don't see any huge amounts of block chance on this team. But it'll just be a survival thing. And I want to go back to this again. I think in the instance that you're not using the top teams that they're kind of pushing, which would be Gondor, of course, and possibly the dwarves. I think the dwarves have a good amount of defensive as well, actually, for this, and they're quite sturdy hit points wise, so they could perform quite well if you have good star levels on them. I think other than that, you're pretty much looking at a survival game that you're basically going to be trying to live as long as you can and get points through this rather than through the others if you're not running a team that can do that. I haven't really, there's a, maybe I need to start doing tier lists. I know there's other people who are doing that. Unfortunately, I can't try every single team. So I kind of rely on you all, the community, to kind of tell me, is, especially the teams that I don't have and that I haven't used, whether or not it's any good. And that's what's good about my Discord. So if you haven't joined the Boilon Discord community, I definitely recommend doing that. We talk about the game every day and talk about strategies and things like that as well. And I'm always looking to hear about people's experience, especially using other characters and other teams. There's teams that I haven't even touched. Teams like Isengard, I don't know how well that's going to do. Really, they might, because they'll just heal a bit over time. But realistically, and that is a good way to heal. But they don't. Uglok actually can block, I'm pretty sure, and is passive. I don't use him as much as some people. I forget where the block actually comes in. I think it's just regular passive. Yeah, so he does have block chance. So I guess as long as he's tanking, that might be okay. But yeah, I guess once we actually see it live. Now, for my guild, we're going to be launching our regular raids on Tuesday, which means that by the time Chapter 3 hits, assuming we make it, of course, that means we'll get there on Thursday. I am hoping to maybe do a live stream on that, assuming that we make that, so we can kind of see what this is all about, and then put some gameplay videos out on the channel here. But I'm curious, what are you all planning on using as your top teams, especially like your top 2, top 3 teams for this chapter? What do you think that's going to be? I'd be interested in the comments down below. The other question is, are you going to make it? Are you going to get into Chapter 3? Because you need 17 million on Chapter 2, which is a little bit of a harder feat, I think. But we've had some weeks to improve our roster, but I am kind of curious, like how many people are actually going to get to Chapter 3 to be able to play it. And 17 million, like I said, it depends on how hard it is to score in Chapter 3, because the 17 million is the threshold to get to Chapter 4. Again, it really just depends on how difficult it is to get those points, because 17 million in Chapter 2 is more like 24 million in Chapter 1. Like, it kind of scales a little bit. So my guild was able to get about 23, 24 million in Chapter 1, but we're at like 7, just roughly around the line for Chapter 2. So I guess we'll see how it translates. I am looking forward to it, of course, but I do have some reservations. We'll see how it pans out, though, and the teams that I have, and whether or not I can score anything on Chapter 3. So let me know in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and hopefully I'll see you soon. And that's the end of this video. And until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.